I'd like you to take a look at this video where we can introduce to you our new toilet meter valve from H2O Guard and show you why this is an excellent choice to retrofit your current float valve toilets to a new meter valve technology. Whether you have a hotel, nursing home, multi-family property, condominium, or dormitory. Any property that has multiple toilets that are using float valve technology, switching to a meter valve will do three things for you. One, it will save you on average 5,000 gallons of water per year per toilet switching to this technology. Two, it is going to reduce your maintenance time in the toilets with our interchangeable parts. And three, it is going to eliminate the possibility of property damage from overflowing or broken toilets. So I'm going to do a demonstration of how the product works, and then we'll come back and look at how these things affect your property. Okay, I'm going to show you how this toilet meter differs from a float valve like you have in your toilets now. First, when I flush, you'll see that we have two chains. This chain activates our meter, so when you flush, this handle gets pulled down, it opens the meter, and water is running through our meter just like with the float valve. There's no electronics, no battery, but the water pressure alone is spinning a system of meters inside the head of this valve that is counting out exactly 1.6 gallons or 3.5 gallons for your older toilets. When it has delivered the right amount of water, it will turn off. So it's a positive on-off switch for your toilet. The handle now can be viewed as an on-off switch for the toilet, like you have an on-off switch for your lights. You only use your lights when you're in the room. Now you're only going to deliver water to your toilet when you're using that toilet. So what that means for you practically, and the way we are able to save so much water, is no longer is it dependent on the level of the water in the tank to shut the water off in a toilet. So this is the product that ends the running toilet. So I'm going to demonstrate to you what would happen when you have a flapper leak. When a flapper leaks and you have a float valve, as the water is leaking out, the valve will continue to put as much water in there as it can, trying to get the level back up to turn it off. As you can see with our valve, what happens is, whether I have a hung flapper or a leaking flapper, all the water that I can lose now is the 2 or 3 gallons that's in that tank, and my water is not going to come back on. So what that means for you is 5,000 gallons of water a year savings by switching from a float valve to a meter valve. The other thing that it means, and this would demonstrate, is if you had an overflowing toilet, a toilet that was jammed up, and you flushed, the only water that you would lose, again, is the 1.6 that I deliver with the meter and the water in that tank, and then it turns off. So that's the end of property damage that you can have from an overflowing toilet because you're mopping up 3 gallons of water, as opposed to with a float valve, it continues to feed water and feed water. So to wrap things up and to show you how this really can impact the bottom line for your property, the three things again are: one is no more property damage from overflowing toilets or from broken tanks. The worst case scenario here is that when you have a completely clogged toilet and it overflows, you're mopping up 2 or 3 gallons of water, as opposed to having a property claim when somebody flushes the toilet and it overflows and they're gone to dinner for the weekend and it runs all over the apartment. Everybody has those horror stories. So it's the end of those problems because, again, our meter turns off after it delivers the 1.6 gallons. The second thing, after the property damage, is you're going to get out of the toilet maintenance business. Every maintenance guy at every property that you talk to will say they are constantly having to hassle with the toilets. With ours, we have two items that really will reduce their time that they have with that. One is, on our flapper, we have this Santoprene washer that when they have a flapper leak, all they have to do is peel off that washer, put a new one back on, flush the toilet to fill it back up, and they're back in business. That signals, again, like I showed earlier, it signals you because when the tank empties because you had the leak, flush, nothing happens down in the bowl, it's time to change that flapper. The second part, besides the interchangeable flapper, is we have this replacement head. Once your meters do wear out, after how many years down the road that is, you don't have to go in and rebuild the whole toilet. You just take out our pin, pop the top off, and you just have a replacement head to put on. Turn off the water at the wall, pull the pin, put the replacement head on, pin back in, flush it to fill back up, and you're back in business. So you're out of that maintenance cycle that you're always having to have with toilets. The third thing is the water savings. The 5,000 gallon of water a year per toilet that we quote is based on a few things. One is we deliver 1.6. Float valves vary wildly on how much they deliver. Two is because we have an adjustable flapper, we only let out 1.6 gallons each time. So we save water in both those areas, but the big one is that flappers leak. Everybody knows that flappers leak. American Water Works study says that 1 out of every 5 toilets is leaking 30 gallons a day through the flapper. So you can see that in your property you have a lot of toilets running a lot of water through that flapper. We're the end of that running toilet, as I already demonstrated earlier, so that 5,000 gallons of water per toilet per year is a significant amount of water savings as well. So that is the 3 reasons why this can really impact your property to switch from a float valve to H2O Guard's meter valve. Okay, we're going to do a quick demonstration on the installation of our product. The first thing that you'll do is pull the bottom adjusting pin halfway out and adjust this to the height of your tank. So just eyeball it. Hold it next to the tank, bring it up to where you think it's about right, and then click it in place and you're done with the height adjustment. It doesn't have to be exact, just so that the refill hose is about at the top here. The flapper goes on just like the flapper you took off. Snap it on to the wings that are on your refill pipe there. Hook the chain up, just like any other installation you've ever done. The 2 things that I want to mention that are unique about installing here is we have a second chain. This is the chain that trips the meter on when the handle is flushed. The only thing you need to remember when hooking up this chain is to leave some slack in it. Okay, if it is too tight, then it's gonna feel funny when they flush. You want it to feel like it did before. And if it's too loose, it won't activate the meter. So leave just a little bit of a loop in that chain so that when it flushes, it activates the meter. After you've got these things hooked up, the only thing left to do is to prime the tank to get it up to the right level. So what you do the first time is just hit this refill switch, and it's going to put in 1.6 gallons of water. And then hit it again. Now what you're wanting to do is, and I've marked a refill line on this hose here, it could be on the tank, wherever it is. What you want to do is make sure that you get water above the refill line, okay? So it may go all the way over the top, or it may be somewhere in between, but we are going to adjust, the only adjustment you have to do is to adjust this float on the flapper so that it only lets out 1.6 gallons every time you flush. So after I've done my second refill, goes over that a little bit, I'm going to hold up on the flapper to get it to where I'm at the right height for my refill. So I let out water and I get close to that line. Now, to determine which way you need to adjust this float, it comes to you with the float all the way down at the bottom of the flapper. When I flush, it is either going to refill to below that line or above that line. Depending on where it refills is how you're going to move this float to work for your tank. So, when it cuts off, if my water level is below my refill line, then I'm going to lift up on that float a little bit. If it's above the refill line, I'm going to push down a little bit, I'm going to flush, and then I'm going to be done. So in this case, you can see that the water level is below the refill mark. So I'm going to reach in, lift up my float just a little bit. Doesn't have to be exact. And then I'm going to flush again. Now when we refill this time, we just want to make sure it's at least up to the refill line. If it's above it a little bit, that's okay, because that just gives you more head pressure and makes it flush a little better. So there we are. We're a little bit above that refill line. We've got our height set. We've got a little bit of slack in the chain. We're done.